Hello, class. I am Andrew Johnson, and today we will be talking about the different functions of nonverbal cues. Nonverbal cues are, whether conscious or subconscious, actions that we take that help to portray a message that we're trying to give out verbally. Um, Nonverbal cues are something that we as listeners can use to try to pick up the exact message that we want to hear from this person, or it can also be used to filter our own message so that we can portray the best message possible. Sometimes when you just say things, they don't come out the right way. So you have to make sure that your nonverbal cues match what you are trying to portray to the people. And what we'll be covering today, the three different nonverbal cues that we're going to be talking about are complimenting, the second is accenting, and the third is contradiction. All three of these uh, actions, all three of these types of nonverbal cues are ways that we can monitor ourselves, or we can tools that we can use to understand exactly what message is being shown to us. And these different functions are going to be covered in the next couple of slides. The first function of nonverbal cues could be complementary. Complementary nonverbal cues are something that are used to support the message that you're giving verbally. A great example of this is in a football game. Say a team is going on third down and they run the ball and they get really close to the first down. And if you've ever seen a college football or NFL football game, usually the referee will come over the mic and tell you what happened. But sometimes it's hard to hear what the ref is saying. And in most cases, there's no microphone to be able to talk over. So the referee comes up and gives a hand signal that shows exactly what he means. He means this is a couple of inches short, which is what this particular picture is showing. And this can show up in day-to-day conversations. It can show up with a talk with your boss. Another great example would be if you're backing up a vehicle and you have a couple more inches to go, and you're obviously getting verbal cues from the person behind you that's pointing you in the right direction. But you can look in the mirror and see their hand gestures that they're giving you that complement the verbal action that they're giving you. And these are something that we can, first of all, take advantage of as a speaker. Because you can be talking to someone and you want to really portray a proper message using your hands to show different things. Say you're talking about a certain part that's a certain size of something, it helps to show a hand signal. And this is a complementary nonverbal cue that we can use in our day-to-day lives. And we must pay attention to these nonverbal cues in our conversations as listeners. The second function of nonverbal cues is accenting. And accenting can best be described as an action or nonverbal cue that is meant to bring attention to the statement that you're giving. A great example of this is when somebody's in a heated argument and they slam their hand on the table. That wakes you up a little bit and you listen a little bit more to what they have to say next. It's an assertive symbol of what's about to come next. And this is something that we can use at the beginning of a statement or even at the end of a statement. Another example of that would be if you're in a heated argument again with someone. A very common cultural thing that we understand is slamming the door on your way out. That's your nonverbal cue of this conversation is over. I don't want to talk to you anymore, and I am angry. Accenting nonverbal cues are used all the time in a less dramatic fashion than that. But the most apparent ones happen on a regular basis. I remember a story actually of starting a conversation with my coach. He was very angry with me about something that happened. And when I stepped into his office, the first thing that he did was he threw a clipboard against the wall. This is obviously a very dramatic nonverbal cue that he was angry at me. I did something that really, really frustrated him, and he wanted to show me how angry he was. And whatever he had to say next, I understood where it was coming from, and it perfectly accented his message. The third function of nonverbal cues is contradiction. Nonverbal cues are oftentimes, as we have discussed previously, something that we do intentionally. But contradictory nonverbal cues are mostly subconscious. It's something that we do unintentionally. A great example of a contradictory nonverbal cue would be talking to someone about how confident you feel about something. And the entire time that you're talking about it, your hands are sweating, your foot won't start tapping. Typical signs of typical nonverbal cues that you're nervous. This is directly in conflict of what you're actually saying out loud. This is, as our book talks about, is probably the most complex of the nonverbal cues because it is a subconscious thing that we don't really think about. And this oftentimes goes hand in hand with deception. Sometimes when you are trying to lie to someone, for instance, this could be used as a tool to understand that someone is lying to you, essentially. Some people are really good at picking up on people bending the truth from them. And I think that this is wise, that they pick up on contradiction in their nonverbal cues. And this is a sign of deception, and that action is what we call leakage. And leakage occurs when somebody is non-verbally expressing something that is in direct conflict with the message that they're actually saying verbally. And this is something that we need to be aware of as speakers, because one of the things that I've talked about in a lot of my forum posts, and I believe, is that we need to be very truthful as leaders, and we need to be honest with our people. And that starts with our ability to accurately portray non-verbally what we're saying. So if you come up and you're speaking to everyone and you're really, really frustrated about something, but you're trying to deliver a good message, you have to be able to control your emotions to not give off the wrong impression. You don't want conflict within your nonverbal cues. And it's something that we have to monitor, and it's also a tool that we can use to better understand when someone is trying to deceive us. This is an incredibly important function of nonverbal cues, and it's something that we have to be aware of so that we can be ready for this. So in this discussion, we have talked about the 3 functions of nonverbal cues. These are not all the functions, but these functions are very important because having a better understanding of the functions of nonverbal cues gives us a whole heck of a lot better shot at being able to understand what message is being shown to us. And as a leader, we have to be able to take advantage of the reality of nonverbal cues. Nonverbal cues are going to happen. It would be a much simpler world if exactly what people meant to say came out verbally. But there's a lot of other things that we have to pay attention to be the best leaders possible and the best managers possible. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to listening to the rest of the classes.